Hello everyone and welcome to my most disliked video. I don't know what my record is so far, but hopefully we can beat that. And the reason for that is because I'm about to give my opinion on a situation that if you don't totally agree with us and you don't tell us that it's SJW bullshit and there's propaganda, and if you don't tell us exactly what we want to hear, then we're going to boycott your channel, we're going to tear you down, unsubscribe to you and all this shit. Which is why I was going to avoid talking about this altogether. I personally don't really want people to do that, but if you want to, go ahead, because this has reached levels that I really didn't want it to. I wasn't going to talk about this until I started seeing people tear people's channels apart, be racist towards people, just call them cunts, constantly cunts, you're a cunt.
Let's see, the Angry Cuck Show, nice straw man argument and lies, Joe, disingenuous, low IQ, the Angry Cuck, Social Justice Warrior Cuck, Angry Just Show, Angry Cuck Show, fuck off, you filleting spick, Angry Joe, fuck up, you fucked up, you fat cuck, Bale made a cuck, God, you really are a cuck, fucking sellout, what a fag, Angry Cuck Show, not my Joe, well, he's a dirty fucking Mexican, I'm done with Joe, I used to join his videos, but he's a faggot, you sellout, pissed off Pedro.
Boycotting a fucking development studio. People are going to lose their jobs over this. It's crazy. And this is why I feel like I should have an opinion on this and I should be talking about it, because I want to get my thoughts across, and I know that I won't be able to convince anyone, but I do want to shed some maybe even intelligent light on this. The problem is this is such an internet thing to happen. It's such an internet thing, and it tends to be that internet things, it's just, we're gonna band together, we're gonna burn everything down, we're gonna take down, ironically, people become these justice warriors. People all band together and they want to tear everything down because everybody else is saying they want to tear everything down. And when that happens, people get incoherent and they don't think straight and they don't think properly. And they're just saying things because they want other people to agree with them. And that's exactly what's happened here. Now, Battlefield 5 will feature women as a customizable option in the multiplayer. That is what's going to happen. Which obviously has infuriated a lot of people. The way that the internet is, it's you do things the way I want you to, or I'm tearing you down, again, as I said. Now, what this has led to is the pre-order figures apparently are down 85% on Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Firstly, I do want to say that we are trusting this news on one news report. This isn't official, nothing is official. Everyone's just kind of harvesting news from this one guy that said one thing. I know that they are disappointed by pre-order sales and that it's not going to perform as well as they wanted it to, but no one from EA or DICE is saying this 85%. We're all just kind of harvesting news from this one report. That being said, I know they're down. They will be down, and I know that people are boycotting this game, and people are going to be going to their jobs where they're game devs and they do a good job and they put a lot of effort into something, and then they're going to have to clear up their desk and tell their family why they can't afford to feed their family because people didn't like the fact that they put a woman in a game. It's kind of crazy. Now, if the reason you aren't buying Battlefield 5 is because there are women in the game, that's really stupid. Like, that is dumb. That is just a dumb reason. And I can and I'm going to get into this a little more later, my actual opinion on EA, but I can kind of agree with him saying that it's a very uneducated thing to do. Look, Battlefield is not a realistic game. People are talking about, they want to go into Battlefield and have an accurate, realistic, immersive experience. You're not going to get that. Even if there are women in the game, which by the way there were women in Battlefield 1 in the war stories, if you're going to go into the game and expect an immersive, accurate, realistic experience, good fucking luck, because it's a video game. You can't get that. They could deliver that if they said to you, you go stand in that trench or under this bunker or whatever and you fight off malnutrition, you fight off infections, think about wanting to go home, get slapped about a bit, and then maybe after about 6 months we'll go out onto the battlefield, and then when you get shot, the disc will crash and you won't be able to use it ever again. You won't be able to play the game ever again because you died, and you died in the game, and then other people can go along and they can visit your funeral and pay respects to you. That's a realistic, accurate World War II experience. Not a video. What video games do is they take out the bullshit of life. The reason people play video games is because they get to experience something that isn't real. That's the point of video games. They take out the bullshit. In Red Dead Redemption, you never go for a shit. You never go for a shower. In GTA, you never pay your taxes. If you kill hundreds of people and the police chase after you, if you just move out of the circle, you're fine and they forget you ever existed. You can walk past them in the street despite the fact that you've massacred thousands of people. That's GTA. That's the way that video games work. They cut out the shit so that you can have a good time. There's nothing accurate about Battlefield. There's nothing accurate about it. It's not how war is. You can't inject someone with a needle and they suddenly come back to life. You can't just resurrect yourself from the dead if you want to play again. That's not how the war works. It's not an immersive experience. There aren't 8-year-olds out in Afghan doing 360 no-scopes on people singing Justin Bieber and then coming back to life when they get shot. That's not how the war works. None of this is immersive. It's not an immersive experience. So with that in mind, they can do whatever the fuck they want. They use the World War II setting because that's a setting they like and that's a setting that they want to use. But they can do whatever the hell they want with it. And so, despite all this, you will never even see it.
Listen carefully. Objective Delta has been lost.
I have watched countless Battlefield 5 gameplays because I was on the fence as to whether I wanted to get it because to me it looked a little too much like Battlefield 1. But every time I saw a gameplay, I did not notice a single woman. It's a choice, it's a customization choice, and people probably aren't going to be choosing it. It's nice to have the option there for people who want it, and maybe people every now and then will choose it. But it's not something you're going to notice. Even if you snipe someone, you're not going to be looking at their face. They're going to be wearing the same uniform as their male counterparts. The only time you will notice a woman in this game is if you stand up right in front of someone and they're there and you're looking them right in the face and looking at the details. There are people complaining about the ethnicity of some of the female soldiers. How will you know? How will you even notice it? It makes no sense. And people, I get it. I know why people are complaining. It's because for years now, gamers have had this world where everybody looks like them, everybody is just like them, you know, everybody's a white male in gaming for the most part, in games like Battlefield and things like that. Everybody is a white male, and people who, let's be honest now, are sexist, have an issue with that, and they feel emasculated by the notion that, oh, suddenly other people are included in this world, that it was just me. It's like being part of a club. It's like the treehouse with no girls allowed put on the side of it. It's like, well, no girls are coming into my treehouse now, I don't like it. It doesn't make sense. The whole SJW argument, it doesn't make sense. It's silly. It's silly to assume that putting women in a game is going to make the game any less immersive than it already is. There'll be glitches, there'll be bugs, there'll be people 360 no-scoping, there'll be people phasing through rocks, there'll be people jumping out of windows and surviving when they shouldn't have survived, there'll be people injecting you with needles and bringing you back to life, and that's just what's going to happen. And whether that's a woman or a man will make no difference whatsoever. You know, the analogy would be if I walk down the street, and I walk down that street every day for 100 days in a row, and then suddenly I saw a woman, I'm not going to walk up to her and go, whoa, 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 whoa. This isn't accurate. You weren't here for the other 99 days. Get up, get out, go, leave. If you really want to know what happened in World War II, read a book, watch a documentary. There are some fascinating World War II documentaries. A video game is never going to recreate that. And if you expect it to, then are you really surprised that people are calling you stupid? Should you really be shocked by the notion that someone's calling you stupid because you expect a video game to be realistic? You don't want a realistic video game. If you really want to know about World War II, go fucking watch a documentary. And even in them, they don't cover things like, well, Jim got food poisoning, he had to go for a shit 17 times. But that's what will happen if you play a realistic, truly accurate game. But I want to move on. There's more to say about that, but I want to move on. A lot of people have been just tearing into Angry Joe. I don't really watch Angry Joe anymore. I think it's one of those things where once you've seen it a few times, you've seen it all. In his defense, I watched too many of his videos at once, and then I just kind of got bored of it. But he does have a point. The game is coming out sandwiched between a game that you have to pre-order to get access to the beta for, a beta that everybody was talking about, and a Rockstar game. Rockstar, by the way, being the company that released the biggest entertainment launch of all fucking time by far. They are the people who are in charge of GTA 5. Red Dead Redemption is one of the most hyped games of all time, and it's the game that I'm most hyped for this year. It's the game that I'm looking forward to the most this year. I'm definitely going to be buying it. I'm not going to pre-order it because that's stupid, but I'm going to buy it. Plus, people are very reluctant to pre-order EA games as it is. EA have proven that they don't give a shit and that they'll just release a shitty game early, and why would you pre-order into that? And I think that the internet is a lot more aware of things like that. The internet is aware of the notion that EA will just chuck something at us and expect us to pre-order it. Well, you shouldn't pre-order it. But people are more likely to pre-order a Rockstar game because it's Rockstar. Rockstar haven't really been tarnished yet. And with Black Ops 4, it is just purely because of the beta. It's a horrible thing to do, but it's genius. They are making sales from making a pre-order only beta. And who's to say that pre-orders are going to lead to full-on sale figures? If you cancel a pre-order, that pre-order still has existed in the ether. How many people do you think pre-ordered Black Ops 4 and then cancelled that pre-order? Which is where that figure comes into play for me, and I think is a bit weird. That figure, 85% more. This is why I'm a little bit dubious by that. If you think about it, Black Ops 4 is on a decline. Call of Duty in general is on a decline. Black Ops 4 has horrible press. It's a piece of shit game, and I want to get into that more later. But it is a horrible game that's getting horrible press, and rightfully so. But, on average, Call of Duty usually pulls in about 9 or 10 million within the first month. I could be crazy about that. But it has been on the decline, and World War II only sold 12 million all told. So pre-orders are not going to be any more than sort of half of that figure, I don't think. But even if it is half, let's say for example they've got 5 million pre-orders. 5 million pre-orders. 100 minus 85 is of course 15. So 15% of the pre-orders of Call of Duty have gone to Battlefield. 15% of 5 million is 750,000. I find it kind of hard to believe that one of the biggest games on the planet only has 750,000 pre-orders. I find that kind of hard that seems kind of crazy to me, especially just because it has women in it. So only 750,000 people are left who are loyal enough to pre-order that game, whereas 5 million are still loyal enough to pre-order Black Ops 4. I just find that strange. But even if that is the case, I think it's very clear and easy to say that they will be making more sales than pre-orders compared to Black Ops 4. And those numbers will start to even out. Now, so far people are going to be hating me, I'm going to get hate comments, people are going to call me a cunt, a cuck, a liberal, all of this stuff. Yes, I am a liberal, but hey, guess what? Both sides of politics should be allowed an opinion. Suddenly things have changed now that the big racist in the sky is telling us, yeah, you say whatever the fuck you want. Republicans are the only people who should be allowed an opinion. Liberals are just idiots. Suddenly his opinion of just bash anyone who doesn't have the same opinion of you is trickling down to the rest of the nation. And if you're a liberal, you can't say anything without getting attacked. There's no coherence to the argument. There's no coherence to the SJW argument. I will give a full paragraph about how Battlefield is inaccurate anyway, and about how it's not a big deal, and all of these nuances and everything that just makes sense, And my side of the argument just makes so much sense, and I get back, you're a stupid fucking libtard, you're a cunt, you're a liberal, you're a stupid idiot, it's supposed to be accurate, and I say, no, it's not accurate for these reasons, no, shut the fuck up, You know, there's no coherence to those arguments, which I think is very telling of the argument itself. It's not a real argument, it's not a real problem, it's not a real issue. These people don't actually give a shit about historical accuracy, they feel threatened. And what I'm about to talk about is also a huge factor. Now, I'm not just bashing on the internet, I'm not just bashing on these people who hate it, but I'm bashing on people who aren't going to buy the game just because there's a woman in it, because they think it should be historically accurate. I think that's stupid. But there is some merit to what people are saying. There is some merit to the boycott. I love video games. One of my favorite comments I've ever got about a video was actually my last video where someone said, "You seem very passionate about games." And I am. I'm hugely passionate about games. I've been playing games for about 2 decades. It's what I do more than anything. I love video games. This world is so fucking shitty. Games are the only escape that we have, and I think we can all agree with that. That's something we can all agree with, that the world is a fucking piece of shit and we need to run away to our video games, and I'm okay with that. I'll fucking do it. I care about games. A few years back, something happened to gaming where the soul was just ripped out of video games. I was listening to the Halo Reach soundtrack the other day, and it was crazy. I kind of had this epiphany where I thought, where's the soul in gaming? Like, the ending to Halo Reach was so perfect, and everything in Halo Reach was so developed. They brought so much into that game. That game was so full. It was packed to the brim, and everything was brilliant. It was a masterpiece. Games like that are very rare nowadays. I loved God of War. God of War's a masterpiece. Uncharted 4's a fucking masterpiece. You know, I loved games like Rise of the Tomb Raider. GTA 5, for all intents and purposes, is a masterpiece if you take out all the bullshit in GTA Online. But the majority of games just aren't that way anymore. They are just cash grabs. I've always said that the biggest issue with gaming now is that they don't make games that are good enough for people to want to buy. They make games that they can implement things that people will feel like they need to buy in, if that makes sense. So Battlefront 2, in 2005, when it originally came out, I'm just thinking about that, I think it was 2005 or 6. In 2005, when Battlefront 2 first came out, they had to make a game that was immersive in the Star Wars lore. And I don't mean immersive in a sense of being realistic, for fuck's sake. And you had to have fun playing as a Jedi, you had to have great planets, lots to do, it had to be chock full of great things to do. But in Battlefront 2, the approach was, how do we make a game and then take stuff out where people actually want to buy that stuff again? There's no how can we make a good video game involved in that. And that's the big issue with gaming. And all of those issues start with one fucking company. EA. EA are cunts. They are the people you should be directing your anger to. They are the cunts. They are dickheads. That CEO who left with fucking $48 million, that CEO, he is a cunt. He doesn't deserve a job. He should have all of his money taken away from him for stripping out something that people care about, for fucking with something that people care so much about. We care about video games, and EA just took all of that away from us and just ripped the soul out of it. And there's, other than games like God of War and Uncharted 4, these rare diamonds in the rough, in so much shitty rough, everything is just a platform for them to scrape as much money up as possible from you. There's no such thing as making a game that's good enough for people to want to play, because it's just how can we grab as much as possible? For fuck's sake, the Shadow of Mordor sequel had loot boxes in a single player game. And the same goes for Mortal Kombat. You had to unlock characters through loot boxes. And I think that's the big issue. I also do think that the way they dealt with the situation is the worst way they possibly could have dealt with the situation. I watched a video last night, which I really didn't expect to see this. It was the best approach to the situation that I've seen in a YouTube video yet. And it was a guy who said, look, the whole SJW thing isn't too much of a big deal, and I don't think people have too much of a problem with it, per se. They'll have a problem at the time, it will be a big issue, and then it will just blow over and people will just buy the game. That's kind of just what happens. You look at Battlefield 4, that launch was atrocious. People were trying to sue the company for that launch. That launch was horrible. You look at the Battlefield 3 beta, people were saying they were going to pull out of the series, they're not going to buy the game because it was so glitchy, people were falling through the earth, and all that stuff. You know, people were just boycotting the game because it was just so full of glitches and things like that. It was a great fucking game, and so was Battlefield 4. Eventually, you know, it had a huge huge backlash. What they did was the right thing. They kept quiet and they worked on it. This is not what they did with Battlefield 5, which I think is the main issue. This SJW thing is stupid. It's a silly argument. It doesn't really make too much sense. And so it will just go away, or at least it would have gone away. They should have let it go away. I didn't really hear too many people talking about it after the first few months, like first month or two. Yes, I will admit the first trailer was fucking atrocious. It was terrible. Not because it had a woman with a cybernetic arm. That's just customization options. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to show you the level of customization that you can do with your character, which is cool. The trailer itself was just stupid. Why were they doing backflips? Why was it so oversaturated? Like, they turned the saturation all the way up. And why was it just... It didn't make any sense. The Battlefield 1 trailer was so good because it showed off the action, but also, you know, the gameplay and the quality and everything like that. And everything was coherent. And by the way, that trailer had a woman in it. So fucking stupid. I think that people would have got over this if EA hadn't been EA. EA, they're cunts. They don't know how to deal with a situation. It's this greater than God mentality. They really do think that because they own so much and because they have so much and because they're worth so much, there's nothing they can do without backlash. And I think Battlefront 2 was a huge moment for them, and it's something they should have learned from. And I think that's one big issue I have with the game too, with the company too, is that they should have learned from that experience. They should have learned from Battlefront 2. Battlefront 2 was actually a pretty good game. It just had so much shit involved in it that it became shit. You know, it is a matter of you like it or you don't buy it. That is true. That's just how it is. But if I walked into a game shop and that guy is selling the game to me and I say, I'm not sure whether I want to buy it. I'm not sure. And he goes, well, if you don't like it, don't buy it. I'd just walk out and go, okay, well, buy now. It's EA acting like EA. It's stupidity. And if you're not going to buy the game for that reason, go ahead. That's great. I think, honestly, that's what you should be doing. I would like to see EA just burn and fucking crash and fall because of this. But at the same time, as much as I hate EA, and I really have a lot of personal hate for EA, I think they are a despicable bunch of cunts, and they've fucked up gaming so much, a lot more than any fucking woman in a World War II game could, I can tell you that. They have screwed up gaming so much for people. Despite that, you gotta wonder what happens if they do crash and burn. What happens if the company goes out of business? Who's gonna buy these IPs? Who's gonna buy a new Mass Effect game? Who's gonna buy a new, or buy Anthem, whether you like it or not? Who's gonna buy it? Who's gonna buy into these new IPs? They're just gonna fizzle away. They're just gonna go. Rockstar aren't gonna buy them. Bethesda aren't gonna buy them because it doesn't fit either of their, criteria. Microsoft might, Sony might, who knows, but if either of those buy it, then it'll be console exclusive. So they'll alienate half of the fan base, and then people will be annoyed about that. But I really don't blame people. If they want to see this company crash and burn for everything they've done, then that's great, go ahead. If you're not buying the game in order to boycott EA, go for it, that's fine. If you're not buying the game because there are women in your incredibly inaccurate, unimmersive game, then just grow up. Seriously, just grow up. You're not going to be able to deal with social situations if this is a problem for you. It's just how it is. But I think there's a bigger story here. I really do think there's a bigger story here, and that bigger story is Black Ops 4. Everybody's talking about how Black Ops 4 is 85% above Battlefield, and that means Battlefield sucks. Why is someone talking about the fact that Black Ops 4 is selling so fucking well? That game is a train wreck. Okay, so I'm going to compare what each game has compared to the other. Black Ops 4 has no campaign. It has a Battle Royale mode, which, let's be honest, couldn't have been too... They had 3 years to develop, and the company's worth $19 billion, and they didn't have enough time or money to do a campaign. A few maps, but you have to buy the other maps through a season pass. You cannot buy individual maps. You can't play zombies unless you buy that season pass either. And all of the assets are just recycled for Black Ops 3. Battlefield 5 has War Stories, which is their campaign, a free Battle Royale mode as well, a fully fleshed out multiplayer, and all free DLC. And they're calming down their loot boxes to make them actually earnable in-game and not as much of it, they don't have as much of an effect on the game. Whereas in Black Ops 4, those loot boxes will be in full effect and only purchasable through COD points, which cost real money. And 85% increase on Call of Duty over Battlefield. I don't get it. I don't understand this industry. I'm okay if you don't want to buy Battlefield 5 because of everything that EA has done, but why are you buying Black Ops 4? That just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make any sense. It's mindless. I don't get it. I really don't get how anyone could choose Black Ops 4 over Battlefield, other than the EA thing. But why are you still pre-ordering Black Ops 4 so much? Just go over to Red Dead. Red Dead Redemption is going to be tremendous. It's going to be a fucking amazing game. If you want a first-person shooter, maybe wait for Doom Eternal. That looks incredible as well. I don't understand how people can be pre-ordering Black Ops 4 so much. And if you think that buying Battlefield 5 is going to do damage to the industry because it's, you know, it's such SJW propaganda bullshit. This isn't propaganda. Propaganda harkens back to a time when you would cut off all news, like what they do in North Korea. You cut off all news, and then you basically say that our country is the best country in the world. This country, you know, they're all fucked up idiots, pussies, and all of this stuff. And it's when you cut off any other piece of news and say no, this is the way that things are. It's essentially lying for the purpose of morale and demoralization as well. That's what propaganda is. It's not putting a woman in a game. Now, if a squad made up of women always won in every multiplayer scenario, that would be propaganda. But boycotting a game over putting women in the game when another game is just tearing itself apart and giving a huge middle finger to everybody who buys it, it just doesn't make sense. You're doing more harm to the industry by saying, I'm not going to buy the game that's full of features and that has so much in it and that just is huge feature rich. Instead, I'm going to buy the game where they've taken everything out, stripped everything out, and just recycled some assets, taken 3 years with $19 billion and just given us plop Black Ops 3 map packs, essentially. It is just Black Ops 3 map packs in a Battle Royale mode. That's all you get for your money. Whereas with Battlefield 5, you get new things, new features. They've worked on it, they've tweaked it. It's an improvement. Here it is for half the price. People think that they're doing more for the industry. They think they're doing better for the industry by paying for that package. You're not. You're just not. I get wanting to boycott EA, I understand that, but to go from EA to Activision have done worse things now than EA ever did. They're doing worse things than EA ever did. People seem to be completely distracted by the horrible, disgusting things Activision are doing because EA are doing some other horrible things which aren't as bad. Anyway, those are my thoughts. The dislike button is just below the video. Have fun clicking it and have fun calling me all sorts of names. I won't be replying to comments because I spent way too much time already arguing with people, and I wanted this to be my definitive word on the situation. I'm not going to be arguing with people over it anymore. It is what it is. It's happened. I'm both okay with it and not okay with it. I don't think people should not buy a game just because it's got women in it, but at the same time, EA are just terrible, despicable human beings and should be kicked and just knocked out of the atmosphere. So we'll see what happens. I personally think the statistic could actually be wrong, but I both hope it is and hope it isn't. So yeah, see you later.